Hi, my name is Dan Devine with RAYCHEM, and I have a problem. Well, I have a lot of problems. But my problem today is that I have a water line in an unheated garage that could potentially freeze. RAYCHEM to the rescue. I can use this Frostex heating cable to heat trace this water line and keep it from freezing. Today we're going to install this Frostex heating cable on this 3/4 inch PVC pipe. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get started. Frostex by RAYCHEM is a self-regulating heating cable system to protect your pipes from freezing. It is a high-quality cable that is very easy to install with only a few additional tools. The first is a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. The second is a cutoff tool or side cutters. And the third is some application tape. This tape is provided if you buy the Frostex truck pack as seen here. So if we were to tip this down and take a look at the box itself, we notice that inside this truck pack, we're going to have 50 feet of the heating cable. We're going to have 2 of the power connections called the 9800 FlexFit plug, and we're going to have 1 roll of Frostex application tape. So as we open up this box, as you can see here, this package here would be the plug kit, the 9800. We have 2 of those. So far the box is good. And then we have 1 of the application tape rolls, as we see here. We'll set that aside. And then we have the bulk spool here of the self-regulating heating cable that's Frostex. This cable will heat up and protect that pipe from freezing. The benefits of the RAYCHEM heating cable is that it can be cut to length depending on how much cable is needed. It can also be crossed and overlapped and will not burn out in that spot that it's crossed over. This is a unique technology that was invented by RAYCHEM. So let's go ahead and dive into the installation diagram in order to see how much Frostex is needed and how much insulation to cover that system with per the particular pipe that we're going to be putting this system on. We want to make sure that we're referencing the installation guide found in the power connection kit in the Frostex bag, this right here. So let's move the tools out of the way and let's dig into this bag to see if we can find that. All right, so now that we've opened up this bag, we can see that one of the items here is the gel-filled end seal. We do not need this right now, so let's set it off to the side for safekeeping. This part here is the actual 9800 power connection kit. We don't need it right now, so let's go ahead and set that off to the side with the end seal. This is a warning label that we're going to apply after the installation is over. Don't need this right now, so let's set it off to the side. This is what we were after, which is the installation guide for Frostex. Let's go ahead and open this up and go to the chart. So it's not the first page, but it's the second page. And this is the chart that we're looking for. This chart can also be found on the back side of the bag. But for right now, we're going to use the chart that's in the installation guide. The first table that you can see here is for metal pipes. The second table is for plastic pipes. And you can see the different listings here that correspond with the 2 different types of pipe material. The pipe that we will be installing the Frostex heating system on today is 3/4 inch PVC, which happens to fall under the plastic pipe guide. So we're going to the pipe size that is 3/4 of an inch under the plastic pipe. Now when we go to that section, we notice that we have a couple more choices to talk about because we have 3/4 down here and we have 3/4 down here. The number that's over to the left-hand side talks about the insulation, which you're going to wrap around the system after the cable's been installed. And this is the insulation thickness, 1/2 inch, 3/4, or 1 inch. Then we correspond that to the lowest expected temperature that this system is going to be turned on or operating in. The particular application that we're going to be installing the 3/4 inch PVC pipe is for a hose bib in an uninsulated garage, which means that I probably will not see 0 degree F or negative 20 degree F. I more than likely will only ever see 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but I want to make sure that that pipe does not freeze. So I'm going to reference the 20 degree Fahrenheit number, and I'm going to go to the 3/4 inch PVC pipe, And I notice that I only need 1 run of heating cable if I use a 1/2 inch of insulation. That's how we look at this. Now, if we were to go up to 0 degrees and say that this ambient temperature of my garage were to drop to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, add a 3/4 inch PVC pipe with only 1/2 inch insulation, I would need 2 runs of Frostex. This is a very good detail to look at and make sure that you're applying the correct amount of heating cable. Now, how to go down this list, if you use 3/4 inch, it'd still be 2. Now, if we come all the way down here, if we had an expected ambient temperature of 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and we use 1 inch thick insulation with a 3/4 inch PVC, we could still get away with 1 run of heating cable. That's not going to be the case for our particular application, where we're going to be installing this Frostex in an unheated garage inside, where I'm going to be looking at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to be looking that we could go with 1/2 inch insulation with a 1 run, or we could go with 3/4 inch insulation thickness with 1 run, or we could go with 1 inch thick insulation with 3/4 inch pipe with 1 run. And we're now ready to use this side of the installation manual to go ahead and cut our cable and get it ready for the power connection kit and the end seal. So let's go ahead and move this stuff aside, and let's take a look at the self-regulating heating cable from RAYCHEM. Now, this cable right here, covered in this grounding braiding jacket, it already looks like the ends are terminated. These ends are terminated to test the cable and to make sure that you get a high quality product out of the box. However, these cable ends are not ready for our installation. We want to make sure that we're cutting this cable to length, and that we're going to cut this flush with the side cutters, which is this tool here, in order to make sure that it's ready for either the end seal or it's ready for the 9800 power connection kit. All right, so let's take this heating cable, and we're going to go out and we're going to measure the length of our pipe and make sure that we have enough heating cable here in this box to be able to do that job. So let's go ahead and measure this so we can figure out how much Frostex we're going to need. Well, down to there's about 4 feet, and then if we were to round this corner, you're looking at about 5 feet to 6 feet of heating cable. Please note that a max run of Frostex heating cable is 50 feet in length. We only need about 6 feet here, so we are perfectly good to be able to do this install. The next tip is that when you install the RAYCHEM 9800 Flex Fit plug, you want to make sure that this cord is long enough to be able to reach to power. And what I mean by power is you need to have a 120 volt outlet that is available to be able to plug this system into. Usually, this item here would be after the insulation of the pipe is put on, zip tied to that, or I think this insulation we might be zip tying it here, and then this would be long enough to be able to plug into the 120 volt outlet. That's key to think forward and planning with your 9800 power connection kit. Now that we know the length and we've figured out that we have available power to us, now we can go ahead and start putting the Frostex heating cable on to the pipe itself. Now's the time to install the end seal on the Frostex heating cable. We're going to take our side cutters that we've used before, and we're going to cut this cable flush, like that. And as we zoom in here, you're going to notice that we need to push back this grounding braid on the end of the cable about 1 inch. Then we remove this plastic jacket on the outer side of this blue heating cable. And usually I find the best way to cut this off is just to twist this plastic jacket to give it a little bit more body so that you can cut it off with your side cutters. Now that we have the Frostex heating cable exposed, we can go ahead and install the end seal. This end seal is filled with gel, and it's a one and done kind of installation. So what you want to do is firmly grab onto the Frostex heating cable and go ahead and push this end seal firmly down until it bottoms out. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, the cable bottomed out, and that makes a really nice, strong and watertight connection to the Frostex heating cable. Now that we have our end seal installed on the end of the Frostex heating cable, we want to be able to push this grounding braid back up and put it up against the end of this end seal. We want to go ahead and clean up any frayed grounding braid. You can wrap it around a little bit so that you can firmly push this up to the end of the end seal. We're going to be wrapping this amount right here with some fiberglass application tape. I'm going to go ahead and take that right now and start as we about right there. And there we have the end seal installed with fiberglass application tape on the end, and now we are ready to go ahead and install this on the pipe up at the top. This is that end seal that we had already pre-terminated, and we're ready to go ahead and install this on the pipe. Now this amount of heating cable is the full amount. So as we had talked about before, we would only need about 6 feet. So I'm 6 foot tall. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut this spool off and save it because I can use this on another job. And that's the beauty of having the Frostex truck pack, is it comes with 2 power connections and 50 feet of cable, so you could use 6 feet here and then you could do another job with another 10 or 15 feet. So I'm going to cut this off so we can use it on a different job. So what we're going to do to cut that off with is we're going to use those side cutters that we've used before, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this cable flush off. All right, now that that's cut off, we are going to use this to install onto the 3/4 inch PVC pipe. Now you're going to start with the end seal on this job going up, because you want to then be able to install the power connection kit on this side when it's going to be closer to power. So how we're going to install this on the pipe itself is we're going to be using that fiberglass tape that we had used before on that end seal. And here's that roll of fiberglass tape. So usually what I like to do is I like to get a couple pieces started on that job so I'm not messing around with the full spool. So I'm just going to get a couple pieces ready. And then this will all start to make sense as we work our way down the pipe. All right, so now we're going to go on up. End seal first. Take some fiberglass tape. And we're going to go up and we're just wrapping this right around the pipe. All right. Can make it nice and clean. Come on down. As you can see here, we're just taking our fiberglass tape, wrapping it right around this cable. Now I need a little bit more tape. Okay, here is the 3/4 inch PVC pipe that is heat traced with RAYCHEM Frostex heating cable. Now we started all the way up there with the end seal, and we're working all the way down this pipe, securing it to the 3/4 inch PVC with our application tape. We're doing that about every 12 inches all the way down this pipe. You keep it nice and straight and clean, and this is one run of Frostex, and that's all we need for this particular application. We come down here and notice that we have a brass fitting here, and we have some brass fittings here that may be colder than the actual plastic. So to overcome that, what we can do is we looped around with the Frostex, and then we came through here and then crisscrossed over. The beauty of self-regulating cable is that it can overlap and also be cut to length for that particular application. All right, we have what I have here in my hand is the 9800 power connection kit, which is the flex fit plug for Frostex. We want to make sure that we have power available with an outlet, that we do, and it's close enough to where we're going to be able to mount this. And why we want to be able to have access to this is there's going to be an indicator light showing you that there's power going to your Frostex heating cable and it's on. And there's also going to be a test and reset button that you're going to want to be able to have access to you. So where we're going to be mounting this is somewhere in this region where the end of this cable is. that's close to our application of the pipe, and then still long enough to be able to get over to power. So that's where we're going to be mounting that. So on the back side, we want to get into this 9800 power connection kit, and inside here, you'll notice that there's a channel to accept the heat trace cable. We prep our Frostex heating cable to be able to go into that channel. So we're going to do that now. So as we move over to this particular heating cable, I'm going to set this plug aside. I'm going to go ahead and get this about, just taking with our side cutters as before, we're going to get this nice and flush cut, okay? And we're going to push this braid back about that 3/4 of an inch. Now note in the installation instructions, you do not have to remove this plastic. I do find it easier though if you do. Once again, go ahead and double back on this so there's a little bit more body with that so that you can be able to cut it off. Then, I usually like to make this blue as flush as possible when you do trim it off. That looks good there. All right, so now that we have our 9800 plug ready to accept this heating cable, we want to get it all nice and lined up to be able to go into this plug. And what you're going to do is you're going to push it till it bottoms out and then hold that while you take your number 2 Phillips screwdriver and start to screw this down. So we still got some movement on this side, so we're just going back and forth until we feel that kind of have a little bit more resistance on it. It's getting pretty tight on that bottom screw, so let's go back up top. And this is just a feel in your hand here is how far tight. Right now, it's pretty tight on both sides, so that's good. We are installed, and that 120 volt power will be able to go. Now it's made connection to those bus wires inside this heating cable so that we will send 120 volts into this cable. It will self-regulate and produce heat all the way along this pipe. So with this grounding braid that we've worked on before, we want to make sure that you don't have any residual wire or individual strands that could potentially, like that little guy there, he could have gotten inside this connection and wreaked havoc on that. So you do not want any of those individual strands getting in your way. So what I like to do is just kind of string it around here, tuck it in, make it nice and tight. And you're now going to bring this braid in because we're going to make a mechanical connection to this grounding braid with the cover. Okay, and now that we have this cover back on top, we're going to take those screws from earlier that we had taken out, and I'm just going to drop them in there. And while you're still pressing firmly down onto the cover itself, you're going to screw these in. Now I'm just getting some tension on this screw so that it'll hold my cap in place. But you're going to want to do the same thing we just did with terminating it to power on the Frostex heating cable. And what that is going back and forth between those two screws a little bit at a time on each side. All right, we're nice and tight on that side. Perfectly tight on that side. So now what we have is we have a perfectly terminated Frostex heating cable with a 9800 plug. So what we want to do is we want to make sure, and like I said before, if we were to plug this in, which we can do live right now, we have an indicator light that's on saying that we've got heat going into this cable protecting that. So what we want to do right now is let's go ahead and unplug this. And we're going to now wrap this pipe in pipe insulation. All right, we're nearing the end of our installation, so congratulations on getting this far. We just have a little bit more to go, and what we wanted to do was that we cover the entire installation with pipe insulation. So this pipe insulation can get purchased at any hardware store, and this thickness here we had already talked about in our installation guide on how thick that pipe insulation needs to be in order to be able to do this one run of Frostex. So I've wrapped this entire job in pipe insulation all the way down to where the fitting would be, where the water would come out, and then all the way up to that end seal where we had terminated in the beginning. So I have mounted the 9800 Flex Fit plug right here on this beam next to our application with some double-sided tape. You can use zip ties or you can use some fiberglass tape. And I personally thought that this would look the best in this particular application. It is still long enough to be able to reach the power. And right now, as you can see, this light is on and is heating this entire pipe. So we do have a sticker here that we can remove. And I'm just grabbing this sticker. And as we remove this sticker, it gives you access to these buttons.
These buttons are test and reset.
So let's go ahead and trip that. That light's turned off and that button popped out, which means we no longer have power coming to protect our pipe. We want to hit that reset button. And now our light's illuminated again, saying that we have power coming through this plug and protecting our pipe. So really the last thing to do, it's usually the first thing I like to do whenever I find a sticker, is take the sticker off and apply it to anything. But we had to be very patient, and this is the last thing we get to do, is apply the sticker. So we can go ahead and apply the sticker. I'm going to apply one right here. So if you were working at this nozzle, you would know that there is a heat trace cable underneath that pipe insulation. And that's what we're trying to let people know, is we're trying to let people know that underneath this pipe insulation, there's a heated cable. So that's it for installing Frostex. Once again, I've got a lot of problems, and RAYCHEM solved one of them with a Frostex heating cable from RAYCHEM.